Some few weeks ago, I promised that we're going to go through the history of Ghana. Ghana is a unitary republic. It came out of colonization, and 4 British territories were joined together. They were the Gold Coast Colony, Ashanti, Northern Territories, Transvaal Togoland. So before they came together, there existed 5 big nations with some minority groups amongst them. So the 5 big nations were Guan, Mole Dagbani, Ewe, Gadangbe, and the Akans. When it comes to the Guan, we have the largest being Gonja in the Savannah region of Ghana. We also have other groupings like Efutu, Ewutu in the central region, Late, Okere, Enum, Boso in the eastern region. We also have the Likpe, Akpafu, Lobi, Krachi in the Oti region, Bono East region, and then partly in the northern region of Ghana. When it comes to the Ewe, we have Vedome, Tong, Anglo, all stationed in the Volta region. We also have the Gadangwe groups, that is Krobo, Ada, then we have the Gamashi, Tema, Nungwa, Osu, Peshi or Teshi in the Greater Accra and then eastern regions of Ghana. Then we have the largest nation, which is the Akans. It's made up of various groups like Fanti, Agona, Asen, Denchra. We also have Achim, we have Kwawu. And then we also have some of them which are cultural accounts, but may speak different languages like the Sefi, Wasa, Awen, or Brosa. So they are also part of the accounts. So now the various groupings had settled in Ghana long before the 17th century. But then among the accounts, that's where my concentration is, because the history of Ghana, whether you like it or not, can be divided into what happened before Asante, what Asante did, and then the present republic. Because every other nation had settled somewhere, and then Asante emerged out of the accounts. Now, within what is now called Ashanti region was a group called Dintra. Their territory was in present-day Anyan Kwanta, Jakobu area. That's where they settled. And then they controlled what is now Ashanti region. But then among their subordinates were a group of Akans who were not happy with how they were being administered. So they included the people of the then Kwama, which is now Kumasi, Mampong, Edweso, Jaben, and Co. So they decided to come together to fight for their independence. Now, when they came together for their independence, they were together because of war, and that's what we say in Akan as a senti, because of war. So they came together to fight for their independence. After winning their independence, they decided that those territories around them would either have to join them on their own volition or would be conquered. So in that space, they conquered a lot of them. In fact, even before Kwaman could grow into what is now Kumasi, they had to conquer places like Tafobu, Krum, and then Amakum. And then when they had formed the Kumasi, they now expanded to conquer other territories that had become part of what is now called Asante. So we are going to look through how these things emerged, looking variously at the Akan subgroup we may call Asante. So Asante started with only Akans, but then by the time we finish this series, we will know that almost the whole of Ghana became part of what was then Asante. And that's why up to now, Asante has a special place in the history of the modern republic. So we will start with going through the various Asante kings. So we had the first being Otetutu the first. He became king at the onset of the Asante unification, and that was in 1701, and he ruled until 1717 according to history. So he started with forming Kumasi by expanding what he came to meet, the Kwamine. Kwamine is in the present day Edum as we know it. His palace was at the place where we now have the military museum opposite the post office in Edum. And then among other places, we had places like Asafo, which is where we have the KMA building now. Behind the KMA building where we call the waterworks, that was where we had Dade Swaba. There are about 77 suburbs in what we now collectively call Edum. It includes Edum itself, Ano, Wawase, we had Dominase, we had Pampaso, so there were also and others. So all these places came together, and it was just within a radius of about 500 meters that we had the various suburbs. Now, when he conquered a place like Tafo, then it became part of the bigger Kwamine, and then they also had to conquer a place like Bokrom, then Amakum, and that's where we now had Kwamine Kese. And then later on, because we had needed a capital for the new union, we would then have to form what would become Kumasi, because there was a tree called Kum, and then it was planted in two places, the present day Kumawu and then present day Kumasi, and the one in Kumasi germinated. That's why we call the place Kumasi, meaning under the Kum tree. And then the one that was planted at the present day Kumawu died, so that's why we call Kumawu, where the Kum tree died, because Wu means death. So we are going to explain this, and then we also understand why places like Sampa, Menje, Banda Hinkro, where tree is not spoken, are also part of what is called Asante. We will also explain why sometimes Asante refers to chiefs in certain parts of Ghana as my junior brother, and it is not offensive. And he doesn't say so because the current Asante is older than them, but it's because historically they were part of Asante and they were made junior brothers to the Asante. We also have alliances with some places like Dagbon, where we have Anwa Kotoko, Nzima, where we have Nzima Kotoko, then we have Angulo, where we have Anwa Kotoko, and then we also have Asante Kotoko. So all these things will explain why these things have to come. And then we have people who also make various claims which are not historically verified, such as some people in the then Gold Coast, now southern Ghana, who claim that they fought the Asante in 1826. We are going to explain that Asante fought variously with different group of people in Ghana. The last one was in 1818, where they fought the people of German. German is now called German North, German South, Doma East, Doma West, Doma Central, and then other parts in present-day La Côte d'Ivoire. So they constituted the German, and that was the last fight Asante fought with any African group. Afterwards, from 1824 up to 1902, the Ashanti fought with the people of England. And the English people brought various mercenaries, which included, at the onset, people from Netherlands and then Denmark. And then they also included almost every tribe on the coast, especially Denchira, Gadangwe, Achim, and then Equiapem. And now these people claim they were the ones who fought Asante. We also come to learn that in 1896, those groups that fought on the side of the British would be given medals with the inscription Ashanti 1896, clearly showing that they didn't fight their own fight and that they had joined forces to fight the Asante. So this series will begin very soon in earnest, and then various questions and comments will be welcomed, especially when they are civil and then not derogatory. We will answer them as and when we move on and then come across some of these things.